Man, I hate making this video. I really do. You're going to understand why in a second. So first off, I'm just going to let you know. I realize what I'm going to tell you is a first world problem. I realize that it was my fault. Realize that there was plenty of ways to mitigate the risk that I took here. And I'm still gutted because I've lost all my content, my YouTube content, but really more importantly, my journey and the memories I made with my family and granddaughter over the last 2 to 5 years are lost. And it's my fault. And that's what this video is about. So, first off, I think a lot of people are like, oh, you're just on YouTube, you're just trying to make money. That's not the case. I have a job. My wife and I own 2 small businesses, and they're truly small businesses. They're not killing it or crushing it or in any ways, but we love them and they support our community. But for me, I started to get into video making. I got an interest in video making early on when I was helping my grandfather in 2005, I think it was. Yeah, 2005, I was helping my grandfather. He was turning 90, and my grandfather during World War II, he was, for lack of a better word, a spy. And so he had a camera with him. And what I did is I took all his old photos that he had back when he was behind enemy lines, or when he was traveling the countryside, and I scanned them all in. I put them to music. I had some narration from my grandma. I used the technology that was available then, and that's when I first started to get interested in this. And then later on, with our first small business, Storm King CrossFit, it's now called Storm King Athletic Club, we still do CrossFit there. We had to find a way, we're a small business. How do we have marketing? How do we tell our story? How do we share our member experiences, which is what was really important to me. So I spent lots of time, figuring out how to edit photos, albeit at an amateur level, to tell a story. Later on, we opened up a place called the Coffee Box, which is attached to our gym. And once again, money is tight, small business. So how can I do my own marketing? How can we tell stories? How can we do videos? How can we communicate to our members different things? So that's what kind of started it. But then my role is one of, for lack of a better word, leadership, where I don't actually get to do projects where I feel like there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's usually a problem to solve. And while I'm not complaining about that, it doesn't scratch that creative outlet that you get when you have a task to complete. And so that's what really got me into photography and telling our stories, because I love to be able to kind of share our experiences. It gives me something to do. Do I hope to grow our channel? Sure, I hope to grow our channel. Do I expect to be an influencer? No. I just hope that I'm making content that people like to watch, right? I know for my family later on, they're going to want to watch it. So that's why I'm gutted. So let me explain what happened. And once again, I'm in enterprise IT, so I know better than this. I know better than this. I know all about RAID configurations and all that stuff with backups and clouds. I know that. It's what I do. And this is why it's so hard. I got no one to blame but myself. So this last week, I had an issue with my laptop where I actually do my video editing. Basically, it filled up 100 gigs instantaneously, and I couldn't do any more work. In fact, our Oregon City series video that many of you watched, that was the last one I was able to make, and it was during the creation of that one that I saw everything seized up. So in a pinch to try to solve what was happening, I quickly moved as many files as I could, photos, videos, off to my external hard drive. and it's not a solid state hard drive. It's a mechanical drive, and I've been using that mechanical drive for a long time. But the problem is that I was trying to figure out in my van proper storage for how I can take my compute from my van and the content into work or back to home and make it easy. Once again, my fault. I get that, right? So I was trying to figure that out. And I was like, I haven't quite figured out the right carrying case to make everything work, or multiple carrying cases. So I moved everything off to the hard drive. I was able to solve my computer problem, and at that moment I said, okay, I gotta buy a secondary hard drive because I need to copy everything over. You might ask, why am I not using cloud services? It's because I use two of them tied for my business. I'm not an iOS, not an iPhone person, so I use OneDrive for our business, and we used to use Google Drive for our business. And I just didn't want to muddy those together with this. And I was like, I'll figure that out later, but for now I'll get a secondary drive. So that's why I didn't do that. And then the event happened. So I was doing a Starlink stress test where I basically sat in the van and let it run with everything on, lights on, heat on. Starlink plugged into our AC outlets, computer plugged in, and I just worked. I worked for 5.5 hours, and I wanted to see what kind of battery draw that was going to take, and I wanted to share that video with people. And so as I was doing that, completed it. By the way, if you're wondering how 5.5 hours in this works on 3 batteries, one being an extra, I lost about 15% across all 3 batteries, which I don't think was that bad. I had really no solar sun out there, so I wasn't really getting any trickle charge. So I didn't think it was that bad. And after I was finishing that all up, putting stuff away, I needed to take stuff into the house. And this is where the mistake happened. So I have my laptop, put my drive, my mouse, my power supply. And then I thought, hey, I could take this camera in and I could take this camera in. And in my head, I'm like, no, don't do that. Just take 2 trips. You're not going to be able to close the door. You're just not going to be able to close the door. Did I listen to myself? No. So as I walk in the house, the one thing that fell off, it only fell 2.5 feet. My external drive, mechanical drive. And when it hit, I just had a feeling. And I went in, fired up the laptop right away, plugged the drive in, and I heard the click, click, click sound, and I knew right away what was happening. Now my wife thought, hey, you can solve this, you're in IT. And I'm in IT, and that's why I thought, I can't solve this. I know the issue here. In fact, I took apart the drive. I took apart just to see, I could hear a little rattle, if maybe there was something stopping things from moving over. Maybe that was it. But no, wasn't. And it's not recoverable. I could pay big money to have it recovered, but it's tough times, and I don't want to spend extra money right now, big money being thousands of dollars, and maybe potentially get it recovered. And it's not necessarily the content that's gone, even though I've had content that I like to share on the channel. But what you don't realize is that when you're creating content, you're creating all these memories with your family. You have a bunch of B-roll that you probably don't show, but they're special to you. But what was really important is that I am starting to get really into photography. I'm an amateur at everything, but I want to be better at it. And in fact, I actually have an appointment this weekend with a professional photographer that's locally, where we're going to spend 8 hours together. I'm just going to be honing my craft a little bit, you know. So that's how interested I am. And by the way, when the drive fell, it was Friday the 13th. I'm not really superstitious, but I'll just throw that out there. And so back to the photography, I have some old photos of epic, eagles in flight and just different nature photos. And I have just a few that were still on my computer. By and large, everything else on that drive. And the photographer I'm going to meet with, he wants to see that stuff so he can kind of, see where I'm at and help kind of develop my eye. And I don't have that anymore. I don't have the sled ride that I took this winter with my granddaughter, and it was all B-roll shots that one day I kind of dreamed of sharing at a wedding, maybe. Just those little things. I never created a YouTube video of that because that was personal. So I lost all of that, and that's what's really gutting to me. And so my message to you is obviously back your stuff up, especially if it's like really important to you. Mechanical drives aren't the way. They're cheaper, but they're high brake. A solid state drive is the way, but you're going to pay for 2 terabyte solid state drive. You're probably looking at $400 or $500 compared to a 5 terabyte mechanical drive for $124. So you have to create a layered approach. All this I knew. I just didn't do it. And so with that, I've created a new process. This rapidly forced me to create a new process and start all over. And I guess there is some relief in starting all over and being able to start my file naming convention the way I was doing it in the last 6 months, not the previous 4.5 years, and just be fresh with everything. But it's really gutting for me. And so for those that were expecting to see the Claylock video and our last series in Washington, as we worked our way up from the Lost Coast to Needle Rock Visitor Center to being stuck in the dunes, and then we were going to be in Claylock. I'm sorry guys, I lost all of that. Imagine us sitting with the van doors open, ocean crashing, and we're just looking out. That was in the video. For now, though, I do have an old Claylock video with our taco. I'll post that, I think, over here or there. If you want to watch that and get a little bit of appreciation, that'd be great. So what's next? Well, obviously, getting my content, my file folders in sort is next. But next up, I'm going to be mounting. If you don't watch this video, if you don't normally watch my videos, I usually do a few product reviews, but more often than not, it's sharing our lifestyle, right? Sharing who we are and how our family does things. So coming up, a couple things that we're going to do is I have a Starlink being mounted in this van and actually being attached, all the cables being run. That's happening next week. I want to show that for the van community because they're all interested in different ways to tackle that. So that'll be coming up. Also, there's a Kimbo Tusk collapsible fire pit that I'll be doing a review on that. My next video series, we're actually doing something happened this last week, and it's where overlanding meets CrossFit, and you'll have to watch that video to understand what that means. Overlanding meets CrossFit. The other thing that we have coming is we have an off-grid trailer sidekick model that should be arriving in the next week. We've had it on order for a long time, and I'll be doing a review of that for sure. But more importantly, that's going to be out in our adventures with our family and stuff, as we are kind of, getting out in nature. We have the Northwest Overland Rally that we're doing, the Pacific Northwest Overland Expo that we're going to go to, and then, we'll be on the trails, if not every other weekend for sure. We like to get outside as much as we can. So that will be coming up. And if you want to see any of that stuff, man, I would really love it if you like and subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment below, especially if you've ever made that bonehead mistake. Yeah, I got no one to blame but myself. Ugh. Still kills me. Still just kills me. Anyways, guys, I'm sorry for the doom and gloom. I know it's first world problem, but it was my problem, and I wanted to share it with you. I hope everyone is well. Thanks for listening.